If you're researching trawlers under 40 feet, you've probably noticed something. Most buying guides either sugarcoat the costs or focus on boats you can't actually find in the used market. Today we're looking at 5 fiberglass trawlers with real U.S. market availability. These are boats you can actually buy right now, with pricing based on current listings and operating costs based on owner reports. I'm not going to tell you these boats are cheap to own, because they're not. But they represent realistic options if you're serious about trawler ownership and willing to do the work and budgeting that comes with it. We'll cover purchase prices, fuel consumption, and the maintenance realities you need to plan for. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe in order to support the channel. Let's get into it. Number 5. The Pacific Trawlers 37 Pilot House. For serious offshore capability and tank-like stability, this deserves attention. Built mainly in the 80s and 90s, the PT-37 displaces around 24,000 pounds. That's 11 metric tons of stability. Engines vary by boat. You'll commonly find a 210 horsepower Cummins, though some have lugger diesels in the 130 to 200 horsepower range. Always check the specific boat. Cruising speed is typically 8 to 10 knots. Fuel capacity varies. Earlier boats around 300 US gallons, later models up to 400 gallons. Owner reports suggest as low as 2 to 3 gallons per hour at 7 to 8 knots in light conditions, but expect higher with sea state and loading. Under ideal conditions, range is 800 to 1,000 nautical miles or more. Inside, full galley, salon, 2 cabins, head and large cockpit. Classic wheelhouse forward layout. The long keel and protected prop give confidence in shoal waters, though beaching 24,000 pounds isn't trivial. Price? A 1999 model was listed around $129,000. Older 80s models closer to $100,000 or under, depending on condition and engine hours. Reality check. Older boats mean older systems. Budget for surveys, potential engine work, through hulls, and electrical updates. The PT-37 makes sense if you want maximum seaworthiness and range. You're patient about speed and realistic about maintaining an older, heavy displacement boat. At number 4, let's talk about the Nordic Tug 26. The model name says 26 feet, but the actual length overall is closer to 29 feet. This is a well-regarded boat with a big reputation in the Northwest. The Nordic Tug 26 features a semi-displacement trawler-style hull with that distinctive Northwest tugboat look. Displacement is around 8,500 pounds depending on the model, which is pretty substantial for this size class. Now here's an important clarification about the engine setup. Most 1980s era Nordic Tug 26 boats came with a single diesel engine, not twins like you might expect. You'll typically find something like a 77 horsepower Yanmar. Twin diesel installations are quite rare and would most likely be custom repowers done after the fact. Fuel economy is definitely one of the bright spots with this boat. Owner reports suggest you're looking at around 1 to 1.5 gallons per hour total when cruising at 6 to 8 knots in light load conditions. Of course, if you add headwinds or rough seas into the mix, that number climbs. The standard fuel capacity is around 100 gallons, which gives you roughly 260 nautical miles of range at 8 knots under good conditions. For accommodations, you can sleep 2 to 4 people depending on the layout. You've got a mid-cabin V-berth and a convertible dinette along with a compact galley, head, and a modest fishing-style cockpit. It's cozy but functional. Price-wise, models from the 1980s are running around $80,000 to $90,000. These are 40-year-old boats at this point, so you'll want to budget for updates and expect to deal with aging boat systems. Survey carefully and factor in potential refit costs. The Nordic Tug 26 works well for solo cruisers or couples who value that classic trawler feel in a compact package and who are realistic about working with older boat systems. Sliding into the number 3 spot, we have the Monk 36, a Nova Scotia-built trawler that offers you a significant amount of boat for the money. This is a heavy, full displacement trawler with a solid fiberglass hull and a 13-foot beam. Displacement typically runs somewhere in the 16,000 to 24,000 pound range, depending on the specific model. Now, engines vary quite widely on these boats. Early models might have 120 or 135 horsepower Lehman diesels, while later models commonly use 220 horsepower Cummins diesels. Some boats were even repowered with larger engines, going up to 370 horsepower Yanmar diesels. The point is, every boat is different, so you really need to check what you're actually getting. Typical cruising speed is somewhere between 7 and 10 knots, with many boats happiest around 8 knots. Fuel consumption is where things get interesting, but also a bit murky. Some owner reports mention consumption as low as 3 gallons per hour at very low speeds. But typical cruising consumption is likely quite a bit higher, especially when you're running at 8 to 10 knots with a loaded boat. Fuel capacity is typically around 300 to 320 gallons. You'll want to do your own math based on the specific engine and load in the boat you're considering. Inside, you get 2 private staterooms plus a convertible dinette, which means you can sleep 4 people comfortably. The large salon provides good living space, storage is generous throughout the boat, and many models include a flybridge as well. Owners consistently mention the rugged construction and relatively straightforward systems, but keep in mind these are older boats, often with repowered engines. Parts availability can sometimes be an issue, and you may need specialists for some of the work. Budget accordingly. The price range is pretty wide on these boats. Older boats that need work might start around $60,000, while better condition models from the 1990s and 2000s can run anywhere from $100,000 to over $150,000. Condition, engine hours, and refit status matter enormously with this boat. The Monk 36 is ideal if you want a lot of boat for your dollar, and you're prepared for the reality of maintaining an older, heavy displacement trawler. At number 2, we have something quite different from the others, the Ranger Tugs R27. This is the modern option on our list. At 27 feet and 1 inch length overall, the R27 is genuinely trailerable, though we're talking about a dry weight that runs between 6,200 and 7,800 pounds, depending on the version. You'll need a heavy-duty tow vehicle, a proper trailer, and potentially special permits depending on your state. But the advantage is real. You can haul it home for the winter, explore different cruising areas, and save significantly on moorage costs. For the inboard diesel versions, owner reports on fuel consumption are all over the map. Some real-world figures show around 1.2 to 1.9 miles per gallon at planing speeds, which translates to very different consumption rates depending on how you choose to run the boat. Slower displacement mode cruising will definitely be more economical than running at planing speeds. The earlier models had around 100 gallons of fuel capacity, while more recent boats spec out at 150 gallons. The semi-displacement hull can cruise at 7 to 8 knots quite efficiently, or you can push it up to 13 to 15 knots when you need to make time. Range will vary widely based on how you actually operate the boat. Inside, the space utilization is really excellent. You can sleep 2 to 3 people with a V-berth up forward and a mid-cabin area. There's a proper galley, head, and salon settee. The Yanmar diesel in the inboard models provides relatively low noise and vibration, which is nice. Used models from 2010 to 2015 are trading in the $100,000 to $130,000 range. I've seen 2011 models listed around $117,000 to $120,000, and remember, these are US dollars. The Ranger R27 makes sense if you want more modern systems and the flexibility that comes with trailerability. Just make sure you do your homework on which specific version you're buying and what its actual performance characteristics will be. And finally, at number 1 in our list, we have the most specialized boat here, the Sea Piper 35. This tops our ranking specifically for fuel efficiency and offshore range. Let me lead with the headline number that makes this boat stand out. The builder claims approximately 1 gallon per hour fuel consumption when cruising at around 7 knots under ideal, light load conditions. Now that's a test condition number, so real-world consumption will definitely vary with load, sea state, and weather conditions. But even accounting for that variance, this is exceptional efficiency compared to other trawlers. How do they achieve this kind of efficiency? The Sea Piper 35 has an 8.5-foot beam, which is extremely narrow for a 35-foot boat. This design dramatically reduces drag through the water. Power comes from an 85 horsepower Beta Marine diesel, and fuel capacity is around 270 to 300 gallons, depending on the specific build. The builder claims a range of 1,200 to 2,000 nautical miles depending on speed, with the maximum range achievable at 7 to 8 knots under ideal conditions with light load and calm seas. That's genuinely impressive on paper, but you need to understand that real-world conditions will affect this significantly. The trade-off for this exceptional efficiency is simplicity that borders on Spartan. The fit-out is minimal by design. You get 2 small cabins, a basic galley, and a head. There's no flybridge, and the aft cockpit is quite small. The lack of wood exterior means very low maintenance, but this is definitely not a luxury yacht. This is a purpose-built, go-anywhere boat designed for serious cruisers who prioritize range and economy over amenities and comfort. Cost-wise, this is the priciest boat on our list. New models from 2018 and later were listed around $169,000 to $170,000. I've seen a 2022 model listed at $194,000. Used examples with low hours generally run above $150,000, though availability in the used market is quite limited. The Sea Piper 35 tops our list because nothing else combines this level of range and fuel efficiency at this price point. If your goal is serious offshore cruising with minimal fuel costs and you're willing to sacrifice amenities for pure capability, this is your boat. 5 trawlers under 40 feet representing real options in today's U.S. used market. Now let's be honest about something that most YouTube videos conveniently skip over. The purchase price is really just the beginning of your investment. You'll need to budget for surveys, which typically run $20 to $30 per foot. Then there's haul-out costs, bottom paint, diesel engine maintenance or potential overhauls, electrical system updates, and through-hull replacements. Annual cost for insurance, moorage, winterization, and routine maintenance can easily run $10,000 to $20,000 or more, depending on your location and the boat's condition. Each of these 5 boats represents a different approach to affordable cruising. The key is honestly matching the boat to your priorities, your actual budget, and your maintenance capability. Are you handy and willing to do your own work? That changes the equation significantly. Are you planning coastal cruising or offshore passages? That matters too. All 5 boats share solid fiberglass construction and proven designs. These are real boats that real people are actively cruising on right now, but none of them are magic solutions. They all require ongoing work, money, and realistic expectations about what boat ownership actually involves. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe for more realistic cruising content. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 5 appeals to you most, and more importantly, what questions you still have about trawler ownership. Thanks for watching. The dream is real, but so are the costs. Plan accordingly, and fair winds.